Hello, everybody, and welcome to ZTV Live. I'm Susan Mulligan-Fleischman, and I'm so glad that you're joining us tonight. Today's Wednesday, July 29th, and tonight, Jane Collins is back with 10 questions, and her guest is Mary Lee Anderson of Senior Services of Alexandria. The conversation will definitely be interesting and useful to all of us in addition. But first, before we get to that, I have a few words from our sponsors. This episode of ZTV Live is brought to you by the Alexandria Pastry Shop with fresh corporate catering. Located in the Bradley Shopping Center on King Street, the Alexandria Pastry Shop has been creating irresistible pastries since 1988. They also season, grill, and saute the best receptions and dinners in the metro area, and they offer gluten-free, sugar-free, and allergy-sensitive specialties. Visit alexandriapastry.com. And by Cafe 44, a stylish American eatery situated along the waterfront in Old Town Alexandria. Featuring indoor and outdoor dining, Cafe 44 offers beautiful views of the Potomac River. They also offer curbside cocktails and a full menu via contactless curbside pickup or delivery. Visit cafe44.com. And by Riverbend Bistro on Fort Hunt Road in the Holland Hall Shopping Center in Alexandria. Riverbend Bistro offers carry-out as well as indoor and outdoor seating. Their new summer menu is available. Be sure to check out their delicious and refreshing specialty cocktails. Visit riverbendbistro.com. If you'd like to talk to the Zebra and become a sponsor of ZTV Live, we have lots of opportunities available and we would love to hear from you. Please send us an email at ads@thezebrapress.com. That's ads@thezebrapress.com. And now I have just a couple of items in the news today. Coming up next weekend is, not this coming one, but August 7th to 9th, it's tax-free shopping in Virginia, something to really take advantage of. The 3-day sales tax holiday starts the first Friday in August at 12:01 a.m. and ends the following Sunday at 11:59 p.m. During the sales tax holiday, you can buy qualifying school supplies, clothing, footwear, hurricane and emergency preparedness items, and Energy Star and WaterSense products without paying sales tax. There's a lot more details. See the full story on thezebra.org, which includes links to some more of those details. And speaking of hurricanes, the season is upon us. The peak of the season lasts from mid-August to October. Alexandria has seen many rainy days this month, just last week causing flooding in historic Old Town. The city has advised residents to prepare for hurricane season through November. Of course, the pandemic is making those preparations a challenge, so the city issued some recommendations. Homeowners should be aware of their flood risk and purchase appropriate insurance. All families should have an emergency plan. This can help members agree on a meeting place if separated, decide how to care for pets, and securing your home. Include a communications plan to gather information about family members if anybody becomes separated. This includes phone numbers, other contact info. Stay tuned to news reports as well as all weather service warnings and alerts. For more details, see the story in thezebra.org. And we do have sad news to share tonight. Alexandria is mourning the loss of James Breeding, TC Titan class of 1986, owner of Al's Steakhouse in Delray, and dear friend of the Zebra. Breeding was a lifelong Alexandria resident, raising his family here and contributing to the city in so many ways. We send our solemn condolences to the Breeding family. Please see thezebra.org for a wonderful tribute to James Breeding from our publisher Mary Wadland with information on services for Mr. Breeding. Okay, so we're going to welcome Jane Collins, our host of 10 Questions tonight. Hello, Jane. Welcome back.
Hi, Mary. It's good to see you
Good
again.
to see you too.
Hi. So, I hear you've been playing tennis.
I have been playing tennis, yes, and that's been really fun, although hot and sweaty in this weather. So,
You're my hero.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Jane. You're so nice to say that. And I have up on the screen now Mary Lee Anderson. Hi, Mary Lee. Welcome to the ZTV Live.
Hi. How are you doing tonight?
Excellent. Excellent. Well, Jane, I will let you take it from here.
Okay. Thank you, Susan. Okay, Mary Lee. Hi.
Hello, Jane. How are you?
I'm good. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready as I'll ever be.
Okay, well, you know the rules. I have the magic bowl of questions. We'll
Yes.
ask you, some of them will be personal and some of them are going to be professional.
Okay.
And also, viewers, if you have a question too, you can type them in. We may answer it on air, or Mary Lee may answer it on air, or it may be selected for one of our 5 follow-up questions when we publish 5 more questions with Mary Lee Anderson in the next day or two. So we'll start with the work question. So here we go. Should senior citizens keep pets?
Uh, the easy answer is yes, with qualifications. Pets are a wonderful source of companionship for anyone, but particularly for older adults and those who are living alone, it can really be a lifesaver. I think we've all heard about how many more pet adoptions have been happening during this pandemic situation. And that's natural. People need that connection and that feeling that somebody cares about them and they can help take care of an animal. But the important thing to consider is the care level that you have to give for a particular animal. Cats can be a lot easier to take care of than dogs if you're not especially mobile and you don't have the ability to walk the dog, or if you don't have the financial means to pay somebody to do that for you on a regular basis. A lot of people have birds. And so, you give some thought before you decide if you don't already have the pet about, how you're going to adopt it. And then also as an older adult, you need to be thinking about plans for the pet in your estate planning. Who's going to take care of the animal if something should happen to you. And also, if you have an emergency, that's something that you want to include in the instructions for the EMTs. Our city has a wonderful service called Smart 911. Everybody should be registered for that. It allows the EMTs, when they get a call from your cell phone or your home phone, if you're registered with that, to have access to all of the information that you've entered about yourself and any pets that you may have in the home. So if you haven't already registered for Smart 911, I would encourage everybody to do that, no matter how old you are. You put in your medications, your emergency points of contact, if there's a pet in the house, any special, if the neighbor's got a key so they don't have to break down your door, all that kind of stuff you can include in there. So I kind of went off the pet question here, but it all ties together about planning ahead and thinking about not only how you're going to be taken care of in your later years, but also looking out for the animal that is your companion.
So how do you sign up for Smart 911? I've not heard of this, and it's a brilliant idea.
Goodness. Wow.
Yeah.
You just go to the city website, alexandriava.gov. It's and you register online, or you can even call. It's managed over at police headquarters with the emergency system over there. And the interesting thing about it is it's not just here locally in Alexandria, but there's municipalities all over the country that are also participate in this program. So let's say, for example, you were able to travel, life was back to normal and you went up to New York for the weekend and you had a fall and you called for emergency 911 on your cell phone, the EMTs there would have access to all that information because that information's been generated from the phone, one of the phones that you had registered for the system. So it's really a very, very good service. So there you go.
And you can actually, I'm thinking, because I've not done this, but you can register your elderly parents.
Yeah, whatever information you think it's important for people to know about you. If your elderly parents live in a jurisdiction that subscribes to Smart 911, obviously they not everywhere in the country has it, but more and more it's pretty commonplace.
Okay. Well, great. Well, that's a great job of advocating Smart 911 for the city, which leads me to my next question, because I'm trying really hard to have clever segues as we go back and forth from professional or personal. Keep the bar really low on this one. Have you ever considered running for public office?
No way. No, I greatly admire the people, who run our city and devote themselves to making Alexandria such a great place. And I have the privilege of working very closely with, members of city council and our city manager and the sheriff and the police chief, and really value the partnerships that we have with them. But I have, a board of directors that I report to, and as long as I keep them happy and take care of my clients, I'm good. A city official, you're never going to make everybody happy, and it's really a thankless job, I think, in a lot of ways. So I'm very grateful for them for doing it, but I have no interest in doing that at all.
Well, what's the picture on the screen? It's you and some of your staff at the courthouse.
Yes, that is as close as I ever want to be to City Council. That's every year there's a program that Meals on Wheels America sponsors called March for Meals. Mm-hmm. And we have a proclamation that's read by, I think this Del Pepper was reading the proclamation, and we proclaim the month of March for Meals on Wheels. And all city officials volunteer that month in particular. Many of them volunteer all throughout the year. But we always make a point of having, Justin Wilson has been delivering for years with his family. And Del Pepper and I love delivering meals together when we're allowed to. Right now, I'm too old to deliver. You got to be under 65, and I am not. But in the good old days, we would have every member of City Council delivering and making a proclamation, just highlighting the importance of the Meals on Wheels program, which Senior Services has been running for the city for many years.
Okay, and we'll talk about that a little bit more, but right now, here's actually a decent segue. Okay. A lot of seniors, whether they live alone or even if it's just them and a spouse, it's hard and difficult to cook just for two or just for one. And a lot of pre-made food isn't very healthy. So what do you suggest?
Well, of course, there is Meals on Wheels. Mm-hmm. And that program in Alexandria operates 7 days a week, 365 days a year. It is for people who are homebound. And that means that they've had a social worker come from the city's Division of Aging and Adult Services to meet with them and to determine that they're not able to get out on their own. If that's the case, they can get Meals on Wheels through the city at no cost. There's no income threshold associated with Meals on Wheels in Alexandria. So if you're homebound, you can sign up to get Meals on Wheels every day of the year. And in Alexandria, we deliver 2 meals a day, a hot meal and a cold meal delivered at the same time by the volunteers to the individual's home. If you're not homebound and you want meals, you can still get them delivered by the same people through the same mechanism for $10 a day. And again, hot meal and a cold meal, it's a deal. And the food is all prepared by a caterer, and it's good food. Mm-hmm. So that's the traditional way. And all of the food meets Virginia state guidelines for nutrition for older adults in terms of portion sizes and, how much protein you have, how much sugar content, salt content, all that kind of stuff. Right now, during the COVID-19 crisis, the city has gone one step further to make it easier for older adults to shelter in place due to COVID-19. And if anyone who is over 60 and residing in the city of Alexandria and is sheltering in place because of COVID-19 can get 14 frozen meals delivered to them every week. We deliver 6 on Monday and 8 on Thursdays. And again, all of those meals meet nutrition guidelines for the state. So those are a couple of options we know that they're healthy. They meet the requirements for older adults. And certainly, I know I've encouraged everybody that I know who's trying to stay home as much as possible to take advantage of that very generous program from the city.
Oh, it's a fabulous program, and you guys have really done a lot, especially since the outbreak started, to help the seniors. And you know so much, so that leads into what's something about you that nobody knows?
I don't know about nobody knows, but most people around here, I was a French major in college. So I lived in France when I was 16, and then majored in French in college and lived in Paris for a while, junior year. So not that many people know that about me.
Say something in French.
Si tu veux, je peux parler en français, on peut faire ça, mais c'est un peu plus difficile maintenant qu'autrefois parce que je ne pratique pas beaucoup. I said, if you want me to say something in French, I can do that, but not as well as I used to because I don't practice enough.
Well, you sure fooled us because you sounded phenomenal.
Okay.
Some things you just never forget, right? Um, and you have been talking, actually, we just talked about this in the question before that. How has COVID-19 affected the senior community, aside from access to food?
Well, a problem for older adults who are living alone in particular, and in Alexandria, there's more than 5,000 older adults who live alone,
Hmm.
um, is social isolation. It's a huge issue in normal times, and of course, now it's even more of an issue because people can't get out and should not be going out if they're older or have underlying health conditions. Trying to maintain those social connections is so important. And it really is a huge issue. There's been a lot of studies done nationally and globally, really indicating that the effects of social isolation are just as harmful as smoking cigarettes. We have, SSA has a program called the Friendly Visitor Program. And I've presented on it a couple of times at Meals on Wheels conferences because we have found that Meals on Wheels, somebody comes to your house every day, they're delivering the meals, but that's a very brief interaction. It's not enough of a social connection to really, give a person a sense of connection to the community. So we started the Friendly Visitor Program about 6 years ago, maybe 7 years ago now. And in that program, we've matched volunteers who, in the good old days, would visit with their senior once a week for about an hour or so. We tried to match people up with individuals that had something in common with them. And we had to switch, of course, to virtual connections once the pandemic began. But our volunteers are continuing to call their seniors every week, and then also to send them little notes and cards and that kind of thing. And we've made about 25 new virtual connections since the pandemic started, just to try and address that issue.
Nice.
One thing that I think is really lacking is the technical ability of older adults is not always there, but there is technology that's relatively simple that if we, going forward, if we could make that more readily available to the older adult population so that they got used to using, not an iPad, it's simpler than an iPad, so that they, knew how to use it before we were in a crisis. So that they could have those face-to-face interactions, even if they're not in person, still, talking the way we are, you still feel connected to people. So we're taking a look at those technologies and seeing how we might be able to introduce those in the coming months and get some funding for that.
Well, that actually was another question, was seniors in tech.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'm sorry to interrupt. I just did want to. I did want to ask a question though, because a question came in from one of our viewers, Mary Wadlin, and she was wanting to know, Mary Lee, how do you get enough volunteers, and do you have enough, and is there a need for volunteers?
That's a really good question, Mary.
no, there's never enough.
Well, it's interesting. Before this all started, we had about 650 volunteers who would support our Meals on Wheels and our grocery delivery programs, and overall about 750 to 800 that support all of our programs. When we started this crisis back in March, we had to disinvite all of our older adult volunteers and say, we love you, but if you're over 65, we really need you to take a break right now for your own health. And that didn't sit well with some of them, but I think as time went by, they've understood that that was the right decision. And we deliberately scaled down the number of volunteers for our Meals on Wheels program so that we could manage it very tightly. So right now we have about 50 people that are doing deliveries to 3 times as many clients as we had back in February. We typically delivered to about 900 people in February in any given week. So 900 meals a week in February, and now we're delivering about 2,500 meals a week. So a lot more food delivered with a lot fewer people, and that's worked fairly well because we've been able to tap into our staff, city staff who've been reassigned to us, and then volunteers who are willing to deliver 2 and 3 times a week because we want to have that consistency and that regular interaction. the difficulty now is that as people start to go back to work, we're losing some of those. So we've had to be doing a lot of backfilling and hoping that we can get people to deliver at least once or twice a week now. And the city has been great in connecting us up with city staff who can't work remotely but are willing to and able to deliver for us. And the Sheriff's Department, we have a wonderful deputy, Morgan Garner, who delivers with us a couple times a week. So, it takes a village, as they say, and
well, Mary,
we're always looking for more.
Here's a question for you. How old do you have to be a senior? Because I've seen 50, 55, 60, 62, 65.
In Alexandria, 60 is about the normal age for most of the city's sponsored programs. So in order to be eligible for Meals on Wheels or our grocery delivery program, 60 is the normal age to be eligible for those. If you look at ARP, I think I started getting stuff from ARP, I think when I was 50. And the rec department in Alexandria, it's 55 is the age for seniors. So it really depends, but 60s, you're getting there when you're 60.
You're as old as you feel, right?
There you go.
So let's go back to the tech real quick, because we're actually dealing with that issue right now in my family, looking for a tech device so the elders in our family can keep connected with the younger members of our family by seeing them visually without it being too complicated. So do you have anything, is there any brand without, being...
I don't know that enough to say I heartily endorse, but we've been looking at something called a grandpad, like an iPad, but put grand in front of it. I'm not sure I'm crazy about the name, but that's what they're calling it. And it's basically a really simple pad that it's a closed user group. So, the individual can only be connected for voice calls with people that are in their own little network. And it can be managed by another family member. And then they also have access to games and, little interactive things that they can do to keep themselves entertained and amused as well. So that's the one that we're looking at. And the city's also looking at allocating some of the CARES Act funding that they have to get some of those out into the older adult clients that they are handling. So we're looking forward to seeing how that test goes, and then we'll decide how we want to move forward with it.
Who makes that? Because I'm getting right on Amazon after this show to look it up. Do you know?
Well, you have to have, we talked with Consumer Cellular, I believe, because you get the basic unit, which is not that expensive, actually. And then you have to pay a monthly fee for the connection. Yeah. But, you can enter, anyone can, in the closed user group, can access that with whatever device they have. So your smartphone or your, computer, or whatever, you're used to using. And then the older adult in your family would have the pad and be interconnected to you that way.
Great. Well, this show is very timely. Yeah. So from your vantage point as the Director of Senior Services of Alexandria, what could you say to all Alexandrians? What can they do to make our city better and stronger?
Well, I think, volunteer is the main thing, and get involved. There's so many different ways to get involved in the city, and I think that has really been something that has been so meaningful to those of us who work in the nonprofit community, to see how the city has come together in this current crisis. The Department of Community and Human Services convened the nonprofits that were providing food. I think we started meeting weekly back, and you're part of those conversations, Jane, back in March, mid-March, late March, for weekly calls. And we all were talking in the beginning. I remember we were all frantically trying to figure out how to do things. Where can we get masks, and how are you handling the issue of volunteers, and, all kind of scrambling to come up with a new normal. And then I saw those calls kind of morph into really sharing wonderful stories about, hey, we were able to do this week, and we teamed up with Volunteer Alexandria, and we teamed up with Alive, and we teamed up with, different faith communities, and everybody is just like, what can we do, and how can we work together in the most effective way? So for any individual who wants to feel connected to the community and help older adults or children, whatever your interest is, there's a way to do it in this town, and there are people that could really use the help. So I think that's the main message: is if you want to make a difference, you can.
Okay. All right. Well, great. Well, thanks. And you can go on any website, Volunteer Alexandria, and find opportunities that interest you. So getting back to seniors, people sometimes worry about dementia. So what is that really? How do you know if somebody's showing signs of dementia?
Well, dementia is just a general term for really the characteristics that are associated with a number of different conditions that cause memory loss. The most prevalent one is Alzheimer's. About 60 to 70% of individuals who are diagnosed with dementia Alzheimer's is the cause for it. I've been very involved with the Dementia Friendly Alexandria initiative that started about a year ago, sponsored by the Commission on Aging, and I'm a very active member of that commission. And what we've tried to do is to educate people about what dementia is and what it isn't. And dementia is really when it interferes with your daily life. So, all of us have been caught in a situation where you walk into a room and you can't remember why you went there.
Right.
And then you walk back out and you're like, oh my gosh, I went to pick up the sodas or whatever it is, it comes back to you. If that's the case, you're fine. That's normal. That's just a normal part of your brain is in overload probably. If you can recall whatever you're looking for, that's normal part of aging. What isn't normal is if you open up your freezer and you find your keys there and you put them there.
That's happened to me. Just saying.
Oh, well.
Just once.
Yeah, there you go. There's one.
Yeah.
But it's that kind of thing where there's a real disconnect. If you find yourself searching for a name or a word and it pops back in your mind later on, that's normal. If you find yourself starting to call things, the example that we always use is if you start calling this not a watch, but maybe a wrist clock, where you're trying to substitute words that you can pull out of your brain to describe what it is, that's kind of a warning signal. And then if you start to get disoriented in terms of place and time, you don't know what the day is, you don't know, you might want to forget, but you don't know who the president is, those kind of things, then you start to worry. I think it's really important for everyone who reaches the age of 65 when you're eligible for Medicare to know that it is, you can get a free evaluation for dementia by your medical professional as part of your annual physical. So ask for it. That way you have a baseline. So that when you go back in every year and they're doing that really simple cognitive test of identifying an elephant or drawing a clock, those kind of things that have been in the news lately, once you have a baseline set, and then when you do it every year, if there's significant deterioration from where you started, then it's much easier to diagnose what the situation is and try to adapt to it. There is no cure for Alzheimer's, unfortunately. But certainly lives can be adapted and they can continue to be a meaningful part of the community when they're living with dementia. It isn't, as long as the community is open and accepting. And that's what the Dementia Friendly Alexandria movement is about.
Okay. Well, great. Believe it or not, we're almost out of time. And I have two more questions to ask you. The next one is completely random, inappropriate, and makes no sense, but it's what came out. Have you ever hitchhiked?
Never.
Oh.
No, I am not a risk taker.
Yeah.
My mom would have killed me if I had ever done that. And no, I have never hitchhiked.
Okay. Well, that was a quick one, so we have time for one more. And then again, you can start almost every question with, it's different because of COVID, but given that, what can seniors do to stay physically active?
Well, if they are on the internet, there is no excuse not to stay physically active. There are so many opportunities for, if you want to do gentle yoga, if you want to do seated aerobics, there's all kinds of activities. We put out a weekly email to our constant contact list that goes out every Thursday at noon, and each one contains uplifting TED Talks and, easy recipes, but also always a little exercise video. And they're different every week, and some of them are 5 or 6 minutes long this week. Tomorrow they're going to see Exercising with Rodney from the rec department, who is terrific. And so, just go online and Google yoga, and you will be able to exercise to your heart's content. If you're not, go out for a walk. That's still acceptable, and you do need to keep physically active. I'm saying this and I'm feeling guilty because I am not the best about this. I tend to sit at my desk all day and just work. But it really is so important, and particularly as you get older, you need to keep your heart rate up and keep your muscles going and keep your core strong too, so that you're not as likely to fall.
Okay. There's so many other questions to ask, and there's so much information. However, we do have to wrap up. Is there anything else you want to say?
Well, I just think, I have found in the work that I do that Alexandria is a really great place to be an older adult if you are informed about all of the things that are available to you and take advantage of them. So even though there's less ability to do things now because we need to be safe and look out for all of the protocols that our city keeps promoting, wash your hands and wear your mask, there's still so much that Alexandria has to offer. So, just go to the city website, look up aging, and see all that the city's Division of Aging and Adult Services has to offer, all that SSA has to offer, and just stay active and involved, and just appreciate what a great place this is if you're an older adult.
Yeah. Thank you, Mary Lee. Thank you so much. And to those of you watching out there, if you are looking for a way to volunteer, I encourage friendly visitors. If you're under 65, please look at Delivering with Meals on Wheels. I've done that with you a couple of times.
Yeah.
You have this app that is just magic.
Yeah, the mobile
It takes
app.
all the guesswork out of everything. You push a little button and it tells you exactly where to go. It was so easy.
Yeah, and the great thing about that is it also allows the volunteers to report back to us real time if they see any issues or concerns about the clients, so that we can make sure that they're looked after properly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you.
My pleasure. Always
Okay.
good to talk to you, Jane.
Yeah, you too, Mary Lee. All right, Susan.
Okay, terrific. I have all three of us are on the screen right now, but I did want to reiterate how amazing that app is. My son and I did a run delivering meals for Meals on Wheels back in March, and we both were thinking, wow, this app is just, it's all the information is there. They give you such clear directions on what to do. I think my son was a little bit shy or intimidated about the process, but it just made it, and plus it was an app on his phone, so he was so comfortable with that. So I would add to Jane's call for volunteers, and if you can do it, it's very rewarding, and it's nice if you can do it, obviously with health concerns and stuff, but it's really, and it's, the need is so great. So wonderful interview, Jane, as always. Mary Lee, thank you so much for coming on the show.
My pleasure.
Yes, Senior Services of Alexandria is in good hands with you at the helm, that's for sure.
Thank
So,
you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you so much, and good night, ladies.
Good night. Thanks.
Good night.
Okay, so that will do it for tonight's episode of ZTV Live, and thank you so much for watching and for being here. Tomorrow night, it's the Virginia Amos Show, and Virginia's guest is Mara Benner of 4 Directions Wellness. So please tune in for that. It's going to be a very interesting discussion on a true holistic approach to wellness, not just kind of healthcare and a smaller look at it. So I think you'll get a lot out of the conversation for tomorrow night. Thank you, as always, so much for watching. Let us know any good news that you'd like us to share. We would love to hear your stories. And in the meantime, be the good news in someone's life.